ChatGPT has a huge potential as a tool to interpret astrological material. Unfortunately, if you ask it to read a natal chart, it hallucinates like crazy, and it's even worse if you feed it your birth details and ask it to calculate the chart for you. As I was preparing a webinar on how to use ChatGPT to read your natal chart in a more foolproof way, I was relieved that actually a lot of people know that as an astrologer, ChatGPT is notoriously unreliable. Here's the translation of some of the messages I got, and I have to say, I'm satisfied with you people. You know things. So if people who know even a little bit about astrology can tell that, man, ChatGPT is really bad at that, what is the point of this video? Well, I love ChatGPT and I want people to be able to use it for astrology because it absolutely can produce quality reading-like output. You just need to feed it the right data. And I found a foolproof way to ask it for interpretations of the natal chart, which in its entirety I share in my webinar. That's information in the description or here. But in this video, I'm going to explain what works, what absolutely doesn't, and give you some general recommendations that will be enough for most people. Also, there is a sweet bonus recommendation at the very end of the video. I'm Nadia, the astrologer for people who do not necessarily believe in astrology, but who have love and appreciation for it. And let's start with the do's and the do nots of using ChatGPT as an astrologer. Actually, let's start with the do nots, what you absolutely shouldn't try if you want to get a reliable interpretation and not a digital hallucination. So do not give ChatGPT your birth data and ask it to give you your horoscope. It will produce a text, and the text just wouldn't be a horoscope based on your natal chart. Do not give it a picture of your natal chart and ask it to assess it, although it mysteriously almost worked in my previous video on using ChatGPT as an astrologer. But in general, it produces more confusion than usefulness, and it produces a lot of mistakes. Do not ask it to give you a forecast. I mean, it doesn't even know what day it is today. And for some reason that's unknown to me, it keeps thinking that the transits that already happened are about to happen. Do not ask it when you will get married. It is like opening a random book on a random page to look for an answer, except that this specific book is very motivated to please you, and it can sound as if it's truly answering your question. Now to what works, the do's. Do feed it chart information in text format, not birth data or pictures. I'm talking about the information about where your planets are, where your houses are, what aspects there are in your chart, such things. Do feed it all of the relevant astrological information. So if you're only interested in the interpretation of the natal chart, you can only feed it the natal chart data. But if you're interested in the forecast, you need to feed it transits or progressions data as well. I'm sorry. Now, keep in mind that different branches of astrology use different data. So if you want an interpretation that's based on, let's say, essential dignities or some exotic aspects or aspect patterns, you have to provide that information in text format. ChatGPT is really bad at extracting it from a picture of a natal chart and absolutely unable to do it with just your birth data. Now, once it has the information in the correct format, you may ask it the questions you would an astrologer, but again, depending on which data you fed it. What you put in is what you can get out. Now, what can you ask depending on the information that you put in? If you only gave it the information about your natal chart, you may ask questions about your character, strengths, weaknesses, challenges, about your life in general as well. If you also give it the data about which transits you would experience in the future, what your progress chart is doing in the future, you may ask questions about the future as well. When it comes to the past, some of it can be extracted from the natal chart, very unprecisely, vaguely. If you want more precise date-based information, again, you have to feed it information about what the sky was doing to a natal chart in that time that you are interested in, and what your progress chart or solar arc was doing at that time. If you are interested in compatibility, so how the natal chart of one person interacts with the natal chart of the other person, you have to describe the natal charts like you would describe your own natal chart. And then you also have to feed it the information about the synastry, so the aspects that exist between the two charts, and also which houses are activated. And there's also a thing that's called the composite chart. It's also nice to calculate that and also give ChatGPT text-based information about this composite chart. That would give you a comprehensive compatibility reading even from ChatGPT. Geographical consultations are the most challenging. I couldn't find a way to use ChatGPT in geographical consultations. I do them as a living human person, astrologer, and I think that if you want a geographical consultation, that's the way to go. And now let me take a minute to talk about what I teach at my webinar before we get to the bonus part. So at the webinar, I give people a step-by-step, beginner-friendly guide only related to natal chart reading. So no forecasts, no transits, no progressions, no compatibility. I teach you how to easily extract data about your natal chart and how to feed it to ChatGPT so it's foolproof. You learn which questions to ask to have the most fun and insight and depth right from the start. And also how to make ChatGPT into an astrologer with a certain approach that you appreciate. So less generic and more suited to your preferences. It's 30 euros. Recording and handouts with instructions will be available after the webinar. Register here or here if you're interested. And now to the bonus recommendation that I have promised. So after you have fed the correct data to ChatGPT about your own natal chart or that of someone you know, ask it to tell you what is remarkable about this person and why. As a consulting astrologer, this is the first question I ask myself every time I work with a new natal chart, and very often when I return to work with an old one, because that's a nice way to get into the mood. And I have to say, I have been trying it with ChatGPT with the charts of people I know, and it is so nice. You have to try it. And of course, let's hope that OpenAI fixes ChatGPT soon and we wouldn't have to scramble for natal chart data like this, right?